Hey everybody, back with Producing Out Loud. I am Jeff Straw here at Pyramind, Director of Marketing, joined by two very special guests, one in-house guy and one who's very much not in-house, here from Ableton. We've got Javad Butah, who is the U.S. brand manager for Ableton. Really thrilled to have you here.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
And you guys probably know Chris at this point, but your first time here on Producing Out Loud.
Hey.
Chris Gear, the Pyramind Mentorship Network architect, I think is his new official title as of today.
How about that then?
Hey,
I'll roll with that.
You like that.
Good to
So, welcome guys. Thanks so much for being here. Big deal to have you in the building. Always nice to see you.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me, man. Love to come through to Pyramind every time.
Nice. So today we're going to talk about the importance of community as it relates to the music industry. And I think that we're both sitting within two brands that really, really value the sense of community that we're building. From two unique perspectives, and we just thought that would be something interesting for you guys to check out and for us to explore a little bit. So, I don't know, Chris, do you want to kind of kick it off with some initial thoughts?
Oh man, I mean, where to start? Community is the most paramount and profoundly important thing in the day-to-day life in this industry. I think, I mean, we're all artists, we're all business people. But at the end of the day, we can't do any of this without the community that makes up the industry at large, the fan base, the collaboration networks that we're all using, and thriving in the technology platforms that we need these days. Everything is coming from and built for community. So, I mean, it really comes back to that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, in regards to Ableton, I mean, what is Ableton community? Let's start by defining that. It's the people that use our products, software and hardware, live and push. Without them, we are nothing. Period.
Yeah, and it's interesting because so many artists, in a way, see themselves in this weird little silo. And as we watch them grow here as students and artists that come in the house, it's neat to watch that open up. You know what I mean? And see them grow as artists and realize that, oh my gosh, I thought I was in this little silo in my bedroom, when in reality, that's sort of meaningless as soon as they start to branch out. And they really get that without the community that I'm building around me, I'm never going to go anywhere, right? And without having my voice heard in that community, it's a little off-putting for an artist, right? And so the fact that both, we've tried to do our best, but you guys have certainly done a great job at listening to those individual artists, and then the collective voice that they bring to the table around all sorts of different stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. We really strive to listen to our user base, be they professional artists or bedroom producers, however you want to say it. But we have many mechanisms in which we strive to interface with our community and really listen to them. I mean, we just recently released a pack called Beat Tools. That was it's a free pack to all push owners. So that really came about through requests for certain sounds and certain kind of an aesthetic capability of push to be integrated, particularly in drums and that kind of stuff. So that type of stuff we listen to in 9.7, a lot of the updates with the slicing modes and the simpler and all that kind of stuff. That all came through community feature requests.
So cool.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times people think their voice is not going to be heard, and what's the point? And I'll just, kick rocks. Like, I wish it did this, and I'll just be quiet about it.
Right.
And instead, it's polar opposite, at least in your case, right? And that's
Absolutely.
Really encouraging for people to hop in those forums and make those needs and wants.
Absolutely, yeah.
Chris, we started the Mentorship Network, you've been here for about 9 months or so.
Yeah.
It really soft launched, but it's been public for a couple months. Yeah. This thing was not in existence anywhere, really, and we sort of birthed it out of nothing. Talk a little bit about the back and forth with here at the executive team, but more importantly with sort of what we had heard in the community at large about where education was going and what it's looking for.
Well, just going back several years, actually. I mean, I come from Portland originally before I came down here for this, and I built a whole bunch of different user groups. And that is about as close as you can get to the day-to-day activity and access to the wants and needs and trends within any of the creative verticals, and because you're in real physical space with people. and I would build all sorts of different training programs. And when these user groups would meet, I would actually see what people were doing, and I've worked on other startups and networks over the years, ADSR being one of them. And, as soon as you start working on something that is, video-based, like a platform like that, the very first thing that comes up in conversation about how do you improve upon this, or how are people actually engaging with this? How accessible are these resources? Like, how profoundly important are they? The very first thing that really comes up is you can't ask a video questions. YouTube is great because you can leave comments and people can then offline get back to you, which is fine, but it's not a two-way conversation. It's certainly not real time, and you can't, flex that video content in any way. You're going to have to go back into production mode. And, it's very difficult to stay current with those things. And what Javad was just talking to, ranking the priority of different dev needs and the status they're in, because development is difficult when you're trying to meet the needs of the many. And trends are fleeting, and technology is developing at a breakneck speed right now. And I would just say that the biggest need for training in our world right now is the ability to connect with people who are affecting that change and driving that change and producing those trends. They are at the bleeding edge of the technology and the music itself. They're tapped into their own fan bases and those music communities that they're serving. And as young producers come up in this industry, they need to be able to connect with those folks in real time. We here at Pyramind, we have great curriculum. It's difficult to build in updates and feature add-ons as technology changes midterm,
especially
let
online.
alone especially online, if you're working with video content, that type of thing. But when you're having real-time face-to-face conversations with people and you're streaming audio in real time with one another, that's a huge powerful thing, and it impacts lives, and it's helping to shape the future of music and the way that people are producing in general as well. So,
yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. I mean, there's definitely a trend in the industry with technology and the kind of communication abilities that we have now through Skype or Google or any other these type of platforms, for the education to be highly personalized, right? And that's why I love that you guys have started this, and especially like really ties into a lot of the stuff that Ableton has been striving to do for many years, in particular, like the certification, like Ableton certified trainers. And I know you guys have some great heavy hitter certified trainers up on your Mentor network, which is really amazing to see, because it's kind of another piece to the puzzle of bringing together. So we have these great certified trainers who are, the top of their field and all that kind of stuff. But how exactly do you access these people? Well, there's geo-specific access. There's one person here in San Francisco, but in a larger sense, in the global network, how do people access that? And so you guys are really building out this amazing platform that is really symbiotic with what we're trying to achieve, and it just brings people together and allows people to really hone in on what they want to learn about and really learn those specific techniques. So kudos to you guys on that one.
Oh, thank you. You guys are providing a platform for people to create with, and you set such a high standard and such a bar of excellence for people to reach. Like, that they have to attain a certain amount of excellence to become certified.
Absolutely.
And with that comes a barrier in that you can't have certified trainers everywhere at all times. You just can't, because there has to be a certain level of excellence attained before you can have this status. So you can't connect with everyone in all the places all the time unless you have a virtual network.
Yeah, and
right?
the beauty is, for kids that aren't in a major market or hundreds and
Exactly.
thousands of miles from a major
Right.
market and just no access, not a lot of hope until something like this rolls through. And that's like when we started talking about this whole thing, to see you guys light up and really get it immediately, it was really, kind of rewarding for us. We knew we were onto something, but it's always nice to hear from validation from one of our biggest partners that, you guys are going to support us through this whole thing. So cool. Talk a little bit more about online versus in person, because you guys have both done a lot of kind of community building, both geographic and in-person centric versus online. And there's kind of like pros and cons of both, I feel like, and maybe we can speak a little bit about those.
For sure. You wanna hit it?
Sure. So in person, you have the ability to have a bit more of a tactile experience. Obviously, you can put hands on things. You can see how other people's hands are touching things, because it's the minutia of anything, whether it be the knowledge or the finessing of your controllers or whatever. And there are certain things that are just intrinsic to in-person experiences in general. You can feel the noise together in the core of your body, and you can hear the things in physical space with one another and react to those things. You can also touch things together, and that I guess again we're just kind of emphasizing the tactile part of that experience, but it's very important and it's very powerful. With the virtual experience, I feel like the one thing that you really need, well, a couple things. One is the eye-to-eye contact. You have to be able to see the other person in their eyes and how they're responding, how they're looking at you, how they're looking at the software when they're engaging with it or with their controllers when they're touching them, and just responding in real time to one another in such a way. There's still that deep human connection, which is really what the biggest thing in the in-person experience is. And then the other thing, of course, is just the real-time responsiveness of the media that you're dealing with in general, right? The content that you're discussing and how you're actually engaging with it. And now that we have the ability to stream HD video and audio at the same time, we're most of the way there. It's not the real world in-person experience, but it's as close as you can get. And I guess that's where I would start with on that, because I guess we could probably talk for days. You don't ever get anybody's
like funky studio smell though, which is kind of nice, right? So that's actually a nice barrier that you don't have to deal with,
right?
Because man, I've been in some funky studios.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
You got your
we don't have much more a better reputation than plumbers on that one. To speak to your question a little bit, virtual versus kind of in person. I think we're at a point in development of society and all that kind of stuff where, they go hand in hand, hopefully. And that's really what we're trying to create is that hand in hand, that the virtual is supporting the in person. And that goes kind of back to our user groups and just a network of Ableton user groups across the globe. There's one in almost every major city in the world. And the difference between, say participating in the forum, the Ableton forum, versus actually physically meeting up, a lot of the intention behind the user group is one, for education, to learn something new. But one of the large intentions of it too is to network, is to actually meet people around you. So like I love Lenny Kaiser, who's a certified trainer here in the Bay Area. Part of every user group is he stops everybody and says, okay, now you guys all have an assignment. You have to go talk to somebody you don't know. It can't be the person next to you. Directly next to you, you got to go meet somebody, like physically get up and go meet somebody, because that's really part and parcel of the physical aspect is meeting somebody new and putting face and emotion and really connecting with people. So I think I don't want to like belittle one or the other. I just think that they are, if we can try to maintain both of those, or we can support both of those, that would be a success for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So in person versus online. And you guys, Ableton started Loop 2 years ago, right? And that looks like something that's going to be an annual event for you. Talk a little bit about the success of that, the accessibility of that, given that it's in Europe.
For sure.
When do I get one here in the States?
Right. Yeah.
Like more importantly, so I can be greedy.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
But seriously, like I know that's been a
Absolutely.
really nice event for you guys. So maybe we can talk just a little bit about it.
For sure, yeah. So Loop is an annual event that we have held twice, and we will be holding it again in 2017. It's going to be in Berlin again at the Funkhaus, which is an amazing recording complex, the largest recording studio complex in the world. It's going to be on November 10th, 11th, and 12th. But just to speak to a little bit about the intentions of Loop, or what is Loop. Loop is a summit for music makers. First and foremost, it's put on by Ableton, but it's really not about Ableton. It's not about the products that we make. It's about music makers. It's about creative people coming together, giving performances, talks, interactive workshops, exchanging ideas around music, creativity, and technology, bringing together artists, technologists, developers, other creative thinkers, getting everybody kind of together in a physical space, as we were kind of speaking to before, and really allowing for opportunities of education, growing as artists or technologists, networking, all this type of stuff.
And inspiration too.
And
really,
inspiration,
right?
exactly. I mean, we had some amazing stuff at Loop 2016. Robert Henke really spent some time. For those of you who don't know who Robert Henke is, he was one of the initial developers of Ableton, and is just an amazing person and developer. So I don't want to get into his bio too much, but yeah, check him out if you don't know who he is. But he spent, a large amount of time making a huge installation inside one room in the Funkhaus. And so there's all kinds of like interactive media and talks and yeah, all that kind of stuff. So that's going to be happening again in 2017 in Berlin. To address your question about it happening stateside, definitely something we've been looking at. And as of right now, we have nothing scheduled, but it's been in the pot. We're mixing it around, and we're trying to figure out what's the best way to go about that.
Good.
Yeah.
But most likely San Francisco.
Right. I mean, it would only make sense.
It would only make sense, right? Yeah. I think it's great that it's just, you're providing a greater access to experience more than anything else. You're providing kind of a gateway for people to come together in real spaces and experience just such a wide range of things. And
yeah, exactly. I mean, just think about our certified trainers. I mean, for instance, we have about 61 trainers in the States, a little under 200 worldwide. I mean, these people, we certified trainers, we don't get to interact together very much, right? But in Loop, we get a large number of those certified trainers from all of the world, and they all come, and we get to hang out and just spend time together, That's amazing. I mean, and that's just one little facet of Loop. So it's really about community. Like, that's really its spoken objective, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's really nice to have the artistry take such a big front seat in all of that too, because I mean, it's easy to lose sight of the fact, especially as we're all engaging with each other online in videos and whatnot these days. It's about music, right? Like, you got to get out and play some
that's
shows.
all we're trying to do, right?
Yeah, check out these installments and check out these shows and see what these artists are doing with their hands and their brilliant minds, together and on their own. And one affects another, and one brilliant mind touches another, and you never know where that's going to go. So just one artist in the big scheme of things.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, Roger Lynn was just here for we did an event with him, and he had nothing but good things to say about it. And
Nice.
clearly he's not affiliated or doing tech for Ableton,
Right.
but he's a technologist, like you said, and
Exactly.
a lifelong inspiration for so many, and so important for so many of his contributions. And like, how cool that you guys recognize that and bring him out.
Absolutely, man. I mean, like I said, it's really not about Ableton's products. Right. I mean, for instance, one of the more interesting kind of panels that I found really interesting last year was one on just the concept of open source. Like, what are the benefits and drawbacks of having things open source? And we had a panel of developers that had nothing to do with Ableton, and we were really just approaching the subject in a really broad way and trying to wrap our heads around it and just have a conversation about something as important as that, like open source versus monetized.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's incredibly important because, I mean, again, for me, it always comes back to access. And, there has to be a community component to anything to actually survive. But if you can't provide access to the tools, obviously, or the ability to affect the development or change of tools or the use of tools, just a way to have your voice heard and affect change over time with technology, I think is so critical, especially with art. I mean, this is really art. Yeah.
And to speak on that subject of access a little bit, I would like to highlight something that we've been working on as a company for the last 2 years, which was the K through 12 push initiative, what we call the K through 12 push initiative. And just speaking to access, so for those of you who don't know, when we came out with Push 2, we offered a buyback to Push 1 owners. Essentially, we would buy back that Push 1, give you a deep discount on Push 2. But the interesting thing is what we did with the Push 1 is that we refurbished them and then opened up a donation program for K through 12 or primary school, depending on what part of the world you're in, because it was a global initiative where we donated Push 1 and also licenses, intro licenses to K through 12. And through that, that was really an initiative that we really manifest in 2016. But through that, we have gained a whole global community of educators, primary school K through 12 educators, which is really interesting, man. I'm going to tell you guys because part of my role is to go around and kind of just check on what's happening with these donations, with the push and with the software. And I'm telling you guys, in 4 to 5 years, the batch of youth that is coming out that has access to this software at this young of an age, we're just going to have this batch of just kick-ass producers that are just going to, it's going to just be second nature for them to work with these tools.
It's amazing.
And so I'm really looking forward to that. I mean, there's already some amazing stuff coming out of these teenagers and stuff, but...
I got chills when you said
that.
That.
That's great.
But it's real, man.
It's really cool.
It's real. And so the community around that, and also just the community of educators. So we have the students on that side, but we've also built up this community of teachers, high school teachers, middle school teachers, who are all now in contact with each other, sharing curriculum, sharing success stories, sharing hurdles that they've come across. And we have also connected them into the higher education, for instance, like Arizona State University, their music education department, which is really putting some heavy research into the CET or the computer engineering technology, educational technology, and what that looks like as far as research papers and how that is affecting education overall, how that's affecting the developing mind of teenagers and all that kind of stuff. So really building out this community of educators that's hopefully, and at this point it is kind of folding back on itself and taking a life on of its own. And that's really, our goal, or that's really my goal, especially in my role with Ableton, is to kind of like connect dots to people and then step back and watch it flourish on its own and then go do that somewhere else and then go do that somewhere else. And so that's really, it's an amazing thing.
You're then just sort of digging your hands in the dirt for more community.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Instead of just like looking at the plants that are already here and here we go, we're walking in the forest. Like you're really getting your hands dirty, so to speak, in that soil to culminate these young producers.
And the other thing that I found really refreshing and I think really important in what you were saying is how you get in there and you create an opportunity and then you get out of the way.
That's
right?
the
Because
idea, yeah.
you provide a certain level of access and, of course, transparency with the relationships that are being fostered here. And I mean, it is business, but more importantly, it's about the future and about developing the community and opportunities in it. And I feel like, I guess just to bring this back to what we've been working on with the Mentorship Network is just that. We have built this amazing thing, somewhat similar to Ableton, where people can come together and create and grow and do wonderful things, but we're not there micromanaging it. We're not there in those sessions. We connect people, you know, and yeah, exactly. You know, I think that's the whole purpose, and I think the position of technology and, you know, platform and network builders like ourselves is to just get the heck out of the way and let people connect with each other and with the technology and the tools to make brilliant things happen.
Absolutely, man.
Absolutely.
Is Max for Kid, or what was it? Max for Kids?
Max for Kids.
Is that still functioning?
.org. I don't think so. No,
Okay.
no. I've stepped away from it for so long. You know, I left that whole world behind when I launched OhmLab, and then I moved to the other side of the world and lived in Thailand, worked on ADSR for a few years, and kind of never really looked back just because I started affecting many, many, many more people with every minute rather than just a handful of people. And I think that's another thing that we're all doing here is like, why focus on helping just a few if you can help the masses? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and it goes to speak, I mean, just to give a little kind of personal anecdote of how I even became involved with Ableton. Yeah. So I started a music program down in LA for at-risk youth, and I was teaching production down there. And I had initially just kind of cold called Ableton because it was part of a network of continuation high schools, which is, if you know what a continuation high school is. So obviously there wasn't a lot of funding involved. Exactly. So I literally just cold called Ableton and said, hey, would you guys be willing to support this endeavor a little bit? You know, these students, they really want to learn music production, but we don't have enough money to buy all this stuff. And that was how I initially even became in contact with Ableton. And then through the next couple of years, they strove to stay in contact with me. They would come and visit my classroom, bring artists, guest artists, all this kind of stuff. And the relationship grew from there. So I came from that background, from an educational background. And then they offered me a job to kind of basically maintain these relationships. So I've seen both sides of it. You know what I mean? I've been on the receiving end, and now I'm on the end that actually does it. So that's really neat. It's pretty interesting.
That's cool. Yeah. And how's that program doing? Speaking of things you launched at one point, is that still around?
Yes, it went through a little bit of a dormant phase. After I left, I had to leave just to make sure there was no conflict of interest. And it went through a little bit of dormancy. I'm still kind of overseeing it from afar. And I was recently able to hook it up with another nonprofit organization called Young Producers Group. And so now it's back up and thriving, and I'm super happy. Shout out to Lawrence Gray, certified trainer in LA, for helping me out with that.
Awesome. It's a great story. Yeah. It says a lot about Ableton too, really. I mean, just the core values of the company.
Exactly.
It really does, yeah. It's good to hear.
So, man, thank you so much. Super inspiring story. I mean, it's funny how we've all done, I mean, I didn't touch on much personally, but I talk enough in these things, where you came from, right? And how education has been such a big part of your sort of your story. Sure. And now you're here kind of on the flip side. It is cool to see, and it is inspiring to see that Ableton cares that much as a company about not only the youth, but about really the touch points and all these community leaders, and then also the members. So, and Chris, thanks. Good to have you back in the building.
Always good.
Right.
Just a reminder to everybody out there watching, you are part of the community, so be engaged and let us know what you want, whether it's for Ableton or Pyramind or any other company that you're engaging with, or any other thing that you're engaging with. You are important. You have a voice, and get it heard. Get it heard.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah. So we've actually even set up a new little email address here, producingoutloud Pyramind.com. So if you've got ideas, questions, thoughts you want to see covered in this kind of a forum, we're super open to that and love to hear your ideas. So it's producing out loud at Pyramind.com. And yeah, this has been a fun one, man. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
We've got an event we'll talk about in a little bit.
Cool.
But we've got an exciting event with Ableton coming up, so keep an eye out for that next month. And other than that, I guess that wraps up another episode. Another what? What are these called? Episodes. Yeah, that's it. That's the ticket. All right, thanks so much.
Thanks, you guys.
Until next time, we'll see you.
Take care.
If you're a music producer, subscribe to our channel and stay up to date on the latest Pyramind tutorial videos, track breakdowns, elite sessions, and more. Visit us at pyramind.com.